everyone, this is Allison from Fanshawe Pioneer Village. Today we are starting our new book, which is The Boy with an R in His Hand. This is a book by James Reaney, who lives locally now. We actually did a adaptation of this book as our summer theater play a couple of years ago with Alvega Root Theater, and I would like to bring this to you today. So just a little back. More than 100 years ago, on a warm summer afternoon, the steamship Canada paddle-wheeled into the harbor of York. Two boys, one taller, one shorter, leaned against the rail and watched the lighthouse keeper come out of his little balcony. With a long pole, he raised a bright red flag into the air, higher than the top of the lighthouse itself. "Joe, why is he doing that?" asked Alec, who was the shorter boy. His older brother didn't know. Farther down the rail was a man in a yellow waistcoat, and Alec asked him. "He's signaling to the harbor master that we're coming," replied the man in the yellow waistcoat. "We're coming in from Niagara, so we rates a red flag. If we were coming in from Kingston, you'd see a blue flag, and if we were just a schooner, he'd put up a white flag." "Are you from the States?" asked Alec after a second pause. "I was born here, young fellow, but Ma and Pa and me cleared out before the war. I'm out of Oswego right now, in the state of New York." "Never ask personal questions, Alec," whispered Joel, who was blushing. "I'm sorry, but there's just one thing. Have you got clocks in that box you have with you?" "Is one of them ticking?" the Yankee said, cocking an ear. "Why, yes, I'm a clock peddler, and I've been selling clocks to Canadians all summer long. You wouldn't care to buy a clock now, would you, little fellow?" Alec looked at Joel, but Joel shook his head and gave a tug at the back of Alec's shirt so as to twist him away. "Thank you for telling me about the flag," said Alec, turning to look at the town, which could be clearly seen for the first time. There seemed to be countless houses and buildings at York. Alec's breath was quite taken away. He could see some boys running down to the wharf, to watch the steamboat come in, no doubt. Harbor gulls flew to the scream at the lake, gulls that had accompanied them from Niagara. As the ship splashed by a low sandy beach near the lighthouse, Alec's sharp eyes saw a heron fishing, an Indian boy running along the beach, and a woman shaking a duster out of a window. Even a flock of wild ducks at the mouth of the little creek near the fort. But most of all, he saw the houses. "Isn't it grand, Joel? Look at the church with its tin rooster on top of it." The Yankee peddler showed them where the courthouse was and where the rich people mostly lived, over near the lieutenant governor's house and the fort. Tall green poplar trees grew in the yard of those houses and seemed to Alec to be tall green persons. "Do you see that house with the wall around it?" asked the man in the yellow waistcoat. "That's Dr. Strachan's house. It is filled with books and silver." There was a puff of smoke from the fort, and a cannon boomed, and the wild ducks flew up and away. Also traveling on the Canada that late summer afternoon was a new coach that belonged to the lieutenant governor, and was being shipped across to him from Niagara, where it had been built. Sitting in the coach, so as to avoid contact with the vulgar mob, was a fine young English lady named Lady Catherine Figgis. She overheard Alec say that the town of York was grand. "Hear that benighted infant?" she said to her maid Betty, who stood at the coach door. "I do, ma'am," said Betty, who now turned up her nose at Alec. "He calls this place grand," went on the lady. "Muddy little York, the worst den I have ever seen in this whole civilized world. And yet," here she yawned, "I must last out another winter here, and perhaps another, until Uncle Peregrine's term as governor of this wretched colony expires." Here's a picture of Alec and Joel and some of the other passengers on the Canada. They're firing the cannon for your arrival, Mum. Oh, what a waste of powder, Tully. Isn't it a waste of powder? Tully was Lady Catherine's pet monkey. He was sitting in the corner of the coach and looked rather thoughtful. The reason we think it's so grand, said Alex, sticking his head in the window, is that in the Red River colony where we come from, miles and miles west of here, we've been 3 months coming from there in a canoe. Why, there you scarcely see 2 houses stuck together, and the prairie meadows are so big and flat, even one house doesn't seem lived in. Here's a picture of Tully the monkey sitting on the window of the wagon, or the carriage, rather. Oh, shrieked Lady Catherine, flopping back on her cushion. Take the vulgar cub away. He smells like a weasel. I'm sorry if I do, said Alec, clinging hard to the edge of the window, for Joel was trying to pry him loose. Joel and I haven't had a piece of soap now for 3 months, and neither of us can swim. Just then the whistle of the Canada sounded, and there was a sharp jerk at the paddle wheel reversed. Lady Catherine shrieked a second shriek, but no one heard us where that noise and confusion was enough. What with the captain directing the lowering of 2 rowboats, whose oarsmen were to pull the clumsy steamship up to the dock. Why can't I talk to the fine lady? Asked Alec as Joel dragged him away. Where I come from, everybody is brother and sister. I want to ask her what the name of the animal she's got in there is. Joel's face turned crimson. He sometimes believed, and this proved it, that his younger brother had been sent into the world to embarrass him out of his wits at least once every day. Nay, twice a day. Passengers were laughing at Alec's last remark, and one old gentleman wearing a powdered wig said that there were no brothers and sisters nonsense in York, just master and servant. Now further laughter and confusion broke out. Somehow or other, Alec had fallen over the rail. But a young fellow fishing in a rickety boat was close enough to pull him out of the water almost right away. The moment the gangplank was down, Joel pushed his way past all the people ahead of him, and paying no attention to their complaints, ran along the wharf to where the fisherman was bringing in his brother. That's the end of chapter 1. We'll be replacing our sections of the Pioneer story, if you had been looking at the schedule earlier this week, with sections of this book by James Reaney. It is a little bit longer than the remaining sections, so it will continue on with our schedule as we continue after this first 3 weeks or so of video live check-ins. Have a great day, and we'll see you this afternoon as we make a spinning top.